I also just want to remind my colleagues of something one lawmaker texted Mark Meadows right after the January 6th attack. Let me quote it: "Yesterday was a terrible day. We tried everything we could in our objection to the 6 states. I'm sorry that nothing worked." End quote. Now, think about that for a moment. A sitting lawmaker apologizing because they failed to overturn an election, apologizing because they couldn't undo the will of the American people. Seriously, is that what our politics has become? This kind of slipped by mostly unnoticed today because of everything else the committee revealed. But when it comes to Mark Meadows, this part feels incredibly important. Because along with that, we also got a brand new, never-before-heard assertion from his top aide, Cassidy Hutchinson, about what Meadows did around that period and why he did it. We don't know why the committee sat on this specific piece of Hutchinson's testimony until now. We've already heard a ton from her in earlier hearings, both taped and live. So let's reset. Mark Meadows was Trump's former chief of staff. He was one of Trump's closest advisors. Meadows was in the room with him. He knew what Trump was thinking. He knew what Trump was planning. He had front-row access to all of it. And after the 2020 election, Meadows was part of Trump's internal effort to overturn the results. Meadows was there. Meadows was participating. Meadows knew the schemes. But here's the part that just surfaced, and it's absolutely wild. Meadows secretly cooperated with prosecutors. He went to special counsel Jack Smith, negotiated a deal, and received immunity. In exchange, he told prosecutors exactly what Trump was doing. Meadows said Trump knew he had lost. Meadows said Trump was misleading the public. Meadows said the fraud claims were baseless. But before we continue, let's be real. The mainstream media can't really be trusted anymore. That's why we created Pump Politics: Real Stories, Real Context, without corporate spin. If you want unbiased updates every day, sign up for our free newsletter. Links in the description. And if you just want to support what we're building, join us. Be part of a community that actually cares about the truth. Alright, back to the video. Now, it's possible the January 6th committee held this back today because it's so damaging to Meadows. And because they're still locked in a legal fight with him to force testimony for their investigation. This clip sheds light on Meadows' mindset, on the intentions behind his actions. Think about what that really means. Trump's own chief of staff, Trump's right-hand man, went to federal prosecutors and essentially admitted Trump was lying about the election. Meadows said Trump knew he lost. Meadows said Trump knew the fraud claims weren't real. Meadows said Trump pushed lies anyway. And Meadows gave prosecutors his testimony, his documents, his texts, essentially a roadmap of Trump's efforts to overturn the election. And Meadows did it to save himself. He got immunity. He shielded himself from prosecution by cooperating against Trump. That's a major revelation because Meadows was in the room. Meadows heard what Trump said. Meadows watched what Trump did. Meadows knew whether Trump genuinely believed the lies or was intentionally pushing them. And he told all of that to prosecutors. Then afterward, Trump issued Meadows a pardon, a sweeping one covering all conduct related to overturning the 2020 election. Trump basically said, "Yes, you talked to prosecutors about me. Yes, you shared damaging details. But you're still on my team, so here's your pardon." Trump essentially rewarded Meadows for sticking close to him, even though Meadows had already cooperated behind the scenes. So now we're left with this situation. Meadows was Trump's closest aide. Meadows testified in ways that damaged Trump. Meadows helped prosecutors, and then Trump pardoned him, guaranteeing no punishment, no consequences. Trump's pardon wiped clean any potential legal exposure for Meadows or anyone else involved in the effort to overturn the election. So the story ends with Trump back in power, Meadows untouched, and the rule of law shredded in the process. It's wild. And it tells us everything about how Trump views accountability, justice, and power. Let me walk you through exactly what happened and why it matters for understanding Trump and the 2020 election. Mark Meadows, as Trump's chief of staff, was one of the most powerful people in the administration. He had direct access. He knew Trump's thinking. He knew what was happening behind the scenes. He was in all the key meetings. He knew everything. And once Trump lost the election, Meadows joined the effort to overturn the result. He was involved in the planning. He helped push the schemes. He tried to help Trump stay in office despite losing. But then Special Counsel Jack Smith launched an investigation into Trump's post-election behavior, into whether Trump broke the law by trying to overturn the vote. Smith gathered evidence, built a case, and eventually, he approached Meadows for testimony. Meadows had a choice: refuse and risk prosecution, or cooperate and save himself. He chose to cut a deal. According to ABC News reporting from October 2023, Meadows received immunity in exchange for grand jury testimony. He provided documents, texts, and insights that were deeply damaging to Trump. What exactly did Meadows tell investigators? According to that reporting, Meadows said Trump was knowingly dishonest about winning the election. Meadows said Trump understood he had lost. Meadows said, "Obviously, we didn't win." Meaning it was obvious to those inside the Trump administration that he had lost. Yet Trump still went out and told the public he won, that the election was stolen, that massive fraud had occurred. Meadows knew none of it was true. Meadows also claimed he warned Trump multiple times that the fraud claims weren't real. He tried to get Trump to accept the results. He apparently told Trump it was over. Trump refused. He kept pushing the lies. He kept insisting the election had been stolen. Then there's January 6th that Meadows confirmed details of Trump's conduct during the attack. He said Trump told Kevin McCarthy something like, "I guess these people are more upset than you are." That shows Trump understood exactly why the mob was there. They were angry about the election because of his lies. So Meadows gave prosecutors a direct window into Trump's mindset. He provided testimony from someone who was physically present, someone who heard Trump speak, someone who knew exactly what Trump was thinking. This is incredibly damaging testimony, the sort of thing that could lead to conviction if Trump were ever tried. And Meadows protected himself with it. He saved himself. He avoided prosecution. But then Trump returned to power in 2025 and began issuing sweeping pardons, covering Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, John Eastman, the fake electors, and yes, Mark Meadows. Trump called the prosecutions a grave national injustice. He claimed that trying to overturn the election was not illegal. And with those pardons, he wiped away all remaining consequences. Meadows ended up with the best possible outcome. He cooperated with prosecutors and avoided charges. Then he was pardoned anyway, doubly protected. Trump effectively said, "Everything you did related to overturning the election, it's forgiven. Now, here's what's important. Trump is protecting someone who betrayed him." Meadows cooperated. Meadows testified. Meadows gave prosecutors a roadmap. And Trump still pardoned him. Why? Because Trump doesn't actually value personal loyalty, he values power. He wants to shield his allies from prosecution because, if they're vulnerable, they might flip again. They might give interviews. they might cooperate in future investigations. But if he pardons them, they're protected and they owe him. The pardons send a message. You're safe. You're covered. Even if you talk to prosecutors, I'll protect you. Stay with me, and you'll never face consequences. That's the signal Trump is sending to everyone in his orbit. Now let me break down the 3 essential points about Meadows and Trump's pardon. First, multiple major outlets have documented that Meadows got immunity and testified that Trump knew he lost, that the fraud claims were false, and that Meadows told Trump exactly that. This is direct witness testimony from someone in the room. Second, Trump issued a sweeping pardon for Meadows in November 2025 covering all conduct related to efforts to overturn the 2020 election, effectively eliminating any legal consequences not just for Meadows, but for many others. Trump used the pardon power as a shield for his entire network. Third, politically, this combination, Meadows cooperating, then being pardoned, shows how Trump uses pardons to protect loyalty networks and shut down accountability. No one can be prosecuted, no one can testify, no one will face trial. This means every ally is protected, and the rule of law collapses. The criminal justice system only works if people can be held accountable. Prosecutors investigate crimes, juries decide guilt, judges sentence. But none of that matters if the president can erase consequences with a signature. None of it matters if the president can protect all of his allies. That's what's happening here. Trump is using the pardon power to prevent accountability, to protect loyalty, to keep potential witnesses silent. Meadows took part in schemes to overturn the election, pressuring officials, pushing fake electors, trying to keep Trump in power. That's serious misconduct. But Meadows also cooperated to save himself. And Trump pardoned him anyway. So Meadows faced nothing. No prison. No trial. And everyone else sees the lesson. Participate in schemes to overturn elections. Lie about results. Help pressure officials. As long as you stay inside Trump's orbit, you'll be pardoned. You'll be protected. You're above the law. This sets a dangerous precedent for democracy. If a president can pardon anyone involved in an attempt to overthrow the government, the checks on presidential power disappear. There's no accountability. The president becomes untouchable. And so does everyone around him. The fact that Meadows cooperated, then was pardoned, makes it even clearer: the pardon power is being used to prevent justice, not to serve it. The intended outcome would be Trump facing trial for his conduct, with Meadows testifying about what he witnessed. A jury hearing evidence that Trump knew he lost. A jury determining guilt. That's the rule of law. But instead, Trump used the pardon power to ensure none of that could happen. Meadows can't be tried. Meadows can't face consequences. Meadows can't testify. Trump is shielding him and everyone else. And this is bigger than Meadows. Trump is pardoning Giuliani, Powell, Eastman, the fake electors, everyone involved. So no one will face consequences. No trials. No testimony. No accountability. This is what the collapse of the rule of law looks like. Meadows cooperated. Meadows testified Trump knew he lost. Meadows got immunity. And Trump pardoned him anyway. So Meadows walks free, and so will everyone else, protected by Trump's use of presidential power. This is the end of accountability. This is the rule of law subordinated to political loyalty. And this is only the beginning. Trump is just getting started with pardons. More people will be protected. More allies will be shielded. Every new pardon erodes the rule of law a little more. With every pardon, the idea that no one is above the law fades further. If Congress does nothing, if lawmakers don't step in, we're headed toward a system where the president and everyone connected to him is above the law and democracy stops functioning. And we're sliding into exactly that.